For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global and to our special series ahead of China's 20th Party Congress. I am Surya Gangadharan, and as you're aware, China's biggest political event, the Party Congress, the 20th Party Congress, has got underway in Beijing. And we are carrying a series of virtual chats to make sense of it. This evening, I have with me Jayadeva Ranade. You met him before. He's head of the Center for China Analysis and Strategy in Delhi. And so, welcome. Glad to have you.
It's a pleasure, Surya. It's a pleasure.
So, the most important item on the agenda, I would presume for Xi, is getting the green signal on his third term. So, at this point, is there anything to suggest that this plan could come unstuck?
No, I don't see any obstacles in his path, unless, of course, something very unexpected happens, and I would say, something beyond human control. But otherwise, I don't see an obstacle. I mean, all the um, media reports continue to eulogize him, continue to build him up. There are hints that he may be given a special designation also, like Ling Shui or leader, which will put him on even a higher pedestal. So I think he's all set for his third term. And in fact, if I may suggest, he's also, setting out or outlining the contours of what he would be doing in his next term.
Mm-hmm. There's some time ago, there were some rumors of a coup. What do you read into it?
No, I think there was a lot of wishful thinking by a lot of people, particularly by Chinese dissidents who are abroad. The Chinese themselves, inside mainland China, were quite quiet. They didn't make any comments, obviously, because they have a lot to lose if they spread rumors and they're caught. So they'd be very careful. And neither was there any reference to that. So many of us, at least I did, think that that was the isolation rules for COVID. So he had just come back from Samarkand. They have a 10-day quarantine, and I think he was in that quarantine, which is why he didn't come out. And the moment it ended, he was out. But before the 10 days, in fact, there were comments about, quote, strong leadership of Xi Jinping, unquote. So making it very clear that he's very much in the saddle. So I think that was a bit of, wishful thinking, and also maybe an attempt to try and upset the apple cart, as it were, to create some kind of a disturbance inside the Chinese, inside China. But it didn't go very far, and I don't think there was much traction there.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is that he's a central figure, and he's not as popular as he used to be when he started out on his first.
Mm-hmm. So I'll come to that in a bit. It's an interesting point you made. It's the Communist Party comprises a whole lot of factions, and I would presume that it is fear of this guy which is keeping people quiet, or they're waiting for a more opportune time, or has time passed them by and they've decided, well, let's sit back and enjoy it.
It's a bit of both of the first two that you mentioned. There is fear, certainly, that is pervasive. The kind of technology surveillance that he's brought in, if I may coin that term, he's using technology a lot, but surveillance has increased from the leadership levels right down to the cadre, ordinary cadre. The second is they're biding the time. Excuse me. Till they feel that the amount of people who resent his rule has grown to a sizable number, they are keeping quiet because they realize that it's pointless doing anything. So that is how I would look at it. I wouldn't say that they're just sitting back and saying, let's enjoy ourselves. They have no option at the moment. So that's how I look at it. Because look at the classes who are resentful, Surya. The anti-corruption campaign that he's launched is the most ruthless and the most sustained campaign, I would say, in the history of the People's Republic of China. No other campaign has gone on for so long, and it has been ruthless. It's been headed by his today by his loyalists. An out and out Xi Jinping loyalist. Earlier, by one of his closest friends. So it has been tailored to suit Xi Jinping's interests, and the number of people who have been knocked out by this campaign is huge. It's in the millions, over 1.8 or 1.9 million civilian cadres and a large number of military cadres. By September 2016, there were 40,000 PLA officers, or 30% of the officer corps of the PLA, which had been charged with corruption. And in the PLA, that means you get a bullet in the head. So that's how it was. Over 145 major generals and above, and many more have fallen since then. So there is certainly a lot of fear, but it also means there's a lot of unhappiness that is spread around. But people can't really do much right now. He has even brought in rules saying that politburo members who are at the top of the heap, even they have to submit written reports to him on a weekly basis, indicating what they've done and what they've not done. And they too are under surveillance. So under these circumstances, very difficult for people to get together to do something, though I'm sure there is plotting behind the scenes.
Now, I do recall reports when the anti-corruption campaign got underway that at the ground level this was very popular. Does that sentiment continue?
I don't think so. Initially, it was very popular, but now it has spread. It is not only anti-corruption; they've also introduced frugality. So the number of people who are being affected are many more. It is one soup and three dishes now. So and Chinese are very fond of banquets. So the banquets have been cut to size. There's no alcohol, including for the PLA, which is only allowed. The officers are only allowed to drink on a Sunday at home. So that is the kind of restriction is brought in. Corruption, they've really cracked down. Of course, it doesn't mean corruption is gone, but it does mean that they're looking at everyone, and people who are wavering in their loyalty to Xi Jinping or disloyal or suspected to be disloyal are removed. So that is what the campaign has done. And in the process, I think a lot of Xi loyalists have been promoted or allowed to come to the top. And that is what Xi Jinping is doing.
So clearly the anti-corruption campaign has helped him to eliminate a lot of people who could otherwise have become an obstacle.
Yes. In fact, when he started this campaign, as you said, it was very popular. The people, ordinary people, were very happy that he had brought this campaign in. But when they found that this anti-corruption campaign, is applicable to everyone, then the tune began changing. So after about 2-3 years, I think the people got a bit, shall I say, the effect of this got a bit jaded, because when they found their own relatives and all also paying the price. And so it's not that popular now. I suppose those who have nothing to do are happy, but as I said, corruption is still there. It still exists. So, it depends on whether the person is caught or not.
You mentioned 30% of the PLA officer corps, which suggests that the corruption and the graft may be even deeper.
Yes. In fact, let me illustrate that with the point. The present chief of the Joint Staff Department, which is equivalent to our army chief, the chief of the ground forces there, General Li Tso-chung, who went there from the Tibet military region, if you look at his record, his promotions were delayed because he didn't go and buy a rank. Otherwise, promotions were given, how much you paid and you purchased your rank. Particularly, at the time of Chiang Zemin. So a lot of people did that. And that is one of the reasons why Xi Jinping, in order to show that he values honesty, he promoted this guy and made him the chief of the PLA Army and the Joint Staff Department. He's of course due to retire, I think, at this Congress. But
And I would presume the same could exist in the party.
yes, the same in the party. People are being scrutinized and coming up, and a number of big fish have fallen by the wayside. But most of them, again, interestingly, there have been one or two who were suspected to be close to Xi Jinping, but most of them are people who are actually not on the same side as Xi Jinping or who are neutral.
Mhm. We have a question from one of our viewers, Arya. He's saying the US is brainwashing our younger generation. Who is the bigger enemy, the US or China? I mean, I presume that's what he's referring to.
Well, I think China is a bigger threat. I mean, firstly, it is on our border. Secondly, it has got claims on our territory. And thirdly, they don't want us to rise. Now, as far as the US is concerned, I'm not saying that it's not a threat, but it's far away. So there's no territorial issue here right now. But they can play games too because they're a superpower.
Yeah.
So I would say that we must take the view that one is all right and the other is not. One certainly is a bigger threat and a more immediate threat, and that is the Chinese. The other is a bit distant, but we have to really prepare ourselves. And if we want to become a big player and big power, which is our ambition, then we have to be stronger. And I think that is the effort which we are making by going in for indigenous manufacture, not only of weaponry but also of vital components and vital sectors like pharmaceuticals.
Let's assume Xi Jinping gets his third term. Then what do you think would be his priorities?
Well, I think I mean, to be cautious, I would say if Xi Jinping gets, but I would say that we should assume he will get. He will probably be there. I think to spell it out, his first priority, I expect, would be the ideology. He has already said that the party, to quote him, the party, north, south, east, west, center, must be at the center of everything. And he's implemented that. He's implementing that. So that will continue. He will push ideology in academia, among the students. He's already started from primary school up, in the party, in the army. So that will continue. And I think that will occupy a lot of space in the work report that he presents to the 20th Party Congress on the 16th of October. The second, I think, will be security, national security, which he has described as the Global Security Initiative, part of that, and Global Development Initiative, where he talks about economics. But both are fused. So security and development, he's married them together very conveniently, but with security taking an upper hand. And there are references almost every second day in the Chinese media to the attempts by foreign powers to create a color revolution inside China, to try and topple the CCP, etc. So he's created a climate for it, and they have now the National Security Week and all that kind of thing. So I think that will be the second big agenda item as far as he's concerned. The two of them together. The fourth, I guess, will be the economy. How to tackle the economy, how to try and give it a fillip, how to get it out of the present doldrums. And that requires some bitter measures, which he's trying, like regulation of the fintech sector, etc. But how far he's able to manage it and push it through is a question mark. And particularly, he is seized of this problem of income inequality between the guys who have it and the guys that don't. So he came out with this concept of common prosperity.
Mhm.
It's not a new concept, but he's pronounced on it now. And that has sent the jitters down the party lines and among the business entrepreneurs because it smacks of, sort of conservative communism that you take what the other guy has and distribute it to
Give it
everyone.
to somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've tried to clarify that by saying that, look, we are not saying dispossess people, but we are saying rationalize distribution. But people are not convinced. So they're still worried about what's going to happen. And many people have already come out with statements saying, yes, it's a good idea and made contributions to, some common fund which was set up. But I think that will be the other point that he will push, common prosperity. So these are the agendas, and of course, rejuvenation of the Chinese nation will be there, which means recovery of territories, etc. Taiwan. These will be the hot button issues which will not go away, which will be there, and he will push on that. So I don't expect his foreign policy, though the party congress doesn't really discuss that in detail, but I don't expect that to change. And the kind of people who he has started appointing now to the top military positions are all younger people. The generals, they're between 50 to 60 years old. They are young and, professional, etc. Of course, they're all Xi Jinping loyalists. So
Mhm.
he's obviously looking at a younger army and probably therefore a more energetic and dynamic army, which is not necessarily a good thing when you're following an aggressive foreign policy.
Mhm. In fact, I recall Vijay Gokhale, the former foreign secretary, telling my boss Nitin Gokhale in an interview that was telecast yesterday that he sees China emerging as a national security state. Is that new? I mean, how do you read this?
Well, I would say that it's already a national security state. Since the
Yeah.
time Xi Jinping took over, he is focused on security and building up the surveillance apparatus and the security apparatus. And from, I think it was 2016 or 2017, I'm not sure which year, sorry, I think it was 2015 or 2016, the security budget has exceeded the national defense budget. And I
Mhm.
think that speaks volumes in itself that the security budget is much higher. The second thing is that there has been, according to reports that I'm reading, in the last few years, and they say that since the 18th Party Congress, there has been a threefold increase in the public security apparatus personnel.
Uh-huh.
So that is huge. And as I said, security has entered every arena now. So I don't think that it's something new. It has been headed towards a security state, but maybe the use of technology is more now. But it is certainly, in fact, I say personally, my view is that it is becoming even more of a totalitarian state. And after this Congress, it will head more definitively in that direction because the scope for discussion, even within the party, inner party discussion, to my
Mhm.
mind, will get narrowed.
Mhm. Yeah, you also talked about the focus on ideology and the crackdown on fintech and all these guys. I'm sure he must be getting feedback. I mean, add to it the lockdowns and all because of COVID. I'm sure he's getting sufficient feedback that the it's hitting the economy hard.
Well,
Yet he persists.
he should be getting the zero COVID policy that he has brought in. Chinese analysts say that it has hit GDP by 35%, which is a lot.
Right.
Then
Yeah.
graduate unemployment is 18.9%, which is very high, particularly when you look at the one child concept, which has been in there since 1979. Um, Families put everything into that kid, and if he's not getting a job, and then when he gets it,
Mhm.
it is half the salary of what used to exist earlier before COVID. So these things are distress factors, and the rural unemployment has risen tremendously because a lot of the people, rural folk who were employed in the urban centers, have gone back home and they're not coming back. So these things are there, and I'm sure Xi Jinping is getting inputs, but whether he's really getting the unfiltered and unvarnished picture is a question, because some Chinese, the allegation they made, say that he has cut himself off from the flow of information. He's only surrounded himself with other princelings, things like this. So one cannot be too sure. But we are aware that Li Keqiang seems to be more cognizant of the economic problems. And I'm sure that with the Politburo Standing Committee, he must be briefing Xi Jinping as to what the situation is. And that would be one of the reasons why common prosperity was talked about.
We don't hear of any public unrest. I mean, one doesn't come across these kind of reports.
They've stopped. Earlier, there used to be reports about, in fact, they used to publish reports about the number of unrests in a year. And they also used to call them big or small. Anything more than 5 people or 6 people was a big one, otherwise it is small. That they stopped after 2019 or so, or 2020. So now you don't get it. And if you read the provincial newspapers, you might get scattered reports of something happening here and there, but there's no total thing. So what one has to look at is the number of arrests or a number of court cases and draw some kind of inference from that. But otherwise, it's very difficult. But cases do happen, like when people lost their savings in Hebei province, then they went and demonstrated outside the bank and things like this. Or there were protests at the stringent application of the zero COVID policy in some places. Then people protested, came out of their buildings, etc. But these are isolated cases. We have not heard of any bigger cases, and we don't have the total numbers.
Let's look at the India relationship. We've gone through fairly difficult times over the last 2 years. Do you see any signs that these could kind of develop into something more serious? Could it kind of fade away? Could they make some moves towards, lowering temperatures?
I'm sorry, I don't see any lowering of temperatures. I mean, it depends. If we stop talking about it, that's one way that we can lower temperatures. But the Chinese position has been that we are where we are and we have not crossed anything. We are not intruded anywhere. So we are okay. You heard their ambassador saying that we normalize the border more or less. Our position is quite different. We are saying that, you go back to where you were, status quo. So I think unless that happens, there is going to be no normalization. And that I don't think is going to happen, considering that the Foreign Minister Wang Yi and the spokesman of the Western Theatre Command have on repeated occasions stated that Ladakh is sovereign territory of the Chinese. So they are not going to march. The second point is that the defense infrastructure build-up in Tibet has been approved at the last NPC, which was in last March, 14th Five-Year Plan. So that's huge. And, things like 3 additional railways, new ones, more highways, they're upgrading and adding 2 more highways running along the length of our LAC. They're building 20 new airports, some of which have already been built, including in the Depsang Plains. These, the question is, why do all this? You can say it's for civilian purposes, but that much traffic to these places? Obviously, they're being geared up. And they're deploying their fighter aircraft in various places. Exercises are continuing. So I won't sort of go into more detail, but what I would say is that all this to me indicates that their plans are still there. I mean, they have not shelved their plans for whatever they want to do. And I think it's still, we have to be prepared for what more is going to happen. What I see right now is a lull. And the longer this lull continues, the more it would appear to normalize the situation along the border, which is quite different from saying normalize the border. That's not what I'm trying to do. So I think that is what it is. And I'm glad we are insisting that, no, that's not nowhere near normalization. We have to stand firm on that. But, we have to be upfront in calling out China. I think that is necessary.
Would you say we have done the best we could in terms of bringing down temperatures since the Galwan clashes. Some level of disengagement has happened. There's been a lot of criticism too of that kind of disengagement. But would you say we've done the best we could in the circumstances?
Well, opinions differ on this. I mean, I think a lot of it is because many people don't know all the details. Certainly, I don't know all the details, but um, everyone has a view, and there are army commanders who express different opinions also. So
Yeah.
that depends. But I would say that we have been very balanced in our approach. We have avoided trying to escalate the situation. Let me put it like that. But we have been fairly clear that we don't condone what has happened and we want them to go back. And till that happens, there is no getting back to normal. And I think we must stick to that position. So I think that is a good stance. The second is our realization that dependence on China is a bad thing. This is, of course, the whole of government has to get round to that view of thinking. I don't know whether the whole of government is, but certainly large sections are, and they have already started. As you know, APIs now they're setting up plants to manufacture them in India. They're we have not allowed certain Chinese companies to come in. We've not allowed Huawei to come into 5G, despite pressure from including our own businessmen. Things like this. And I think that has to go much further because this is a window we are seeing today where the rest of the world also is going to look for what they call trusted partners in the global supply chain, and China is not one. So this is where we have an opportunity, but we also have to cut the Chinese out because they're affecting our own industry. I mean, the fact that they are producing light bulbs and lamps and lampshades and Ganeshas and all that. Earlier, our guys used to do it, a small time guy. Today, the price is undercut what he's able to do. But
Yeah.
that leads to unemployment here. So it's a multifaceted thing, and we have to tackle it. And I think we have to be more stringent as far as these are concerned. There are many more, but I mean, in a nutshell, I think this is how we need to go.
So, last question: any reference you expect at this party congress on India, relations with India, anything?
There might be some bland comment, but this is not really. It doesn't really focus on foreign policy.
Yeah.
But I expect there would be references to the United States because the US seems to have got under their skin. So, every day there is some reference to them, a negative reference, either that they're trying to plan color revolutions or they're responsible for the hard times that China is going through, or they're denying China technology, and not following WTO and all that kind of stuff, WTO rules. So US may come in for some mention. I don't see much focus otherwise. Maybe Pakistan could be mentioned, North Korea could be mentioned. If India is mentioned, it will be in a very carefully worded sense about, without, stressing that they are okay, but India has been a bit of a problem maker or troublemaker, that sense. But otherwise, I don't see much space being given to us. They might talk about ASEAN, again in broad terms, but not specific.
Jayadeva Ranade, as always, pleasure talking to you. Great insight and perspective. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure talking to you too.
And for those of you who joined us on this conversation, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, including Twitter and Instagram. Thank you very much and good night.